Hi, Anouk. Thank you so much for joining me again. I'm very, very excited to have this conversation with you, given it's a new year, 2022. I had great, feedback from our last interview, and I sat back and I thought, what's another subject that we can talk about? And obviously, given the industry and the role that I play, I'm frequently asked about interview preparation and how one can best prepare. So with your amazing experience, Anouk, and in your opinion, what advice would you give to those thinking about, taking that jump and making a move in 2022? How would you best prepare them for their job search ahead?
We all know that with the pandemic and how we've been living the last couple of years, I think it has made a lot of people think, right? About what do I want to do? Where do I feel satisfied? What's next for myself? And like every year, beginning of the year, I think it's a good way just to take a bit of a point around where you are from a career perspective, what you're aiming for, what are your ambitions, and is currently what you're doing meeting that, right? And for those that are thinking from, I'm not really in a point anymore where I feel like I'm progressing, I'm learning, I don't like the environment that I'm in, then it is great to look at outside, but it's always important to do it with a certain purpose and to do it aligned to what is important for you and what you want to get out of it and the type of environment that you can thrive. So that means as you look around for what's next, I think it's about doing some research, first of all, about self-reflecting. What do you want? Because I see sometimes often candidates going out, I want to do something else, but they don't know what. So it's very difficult to find something if you don't know what it is. So I would say self-reflection, being very focused, starting with yourself.
Amazing. And would you suggest a career coach, or do you think perhaps there's enough information online to be able to utilize that if a career coach is sort of not at your fingertips?
Career coaches, of course, are really helpful, but let's not underestimate sometimes the network we have, the friends we have, the colleagues we have, the partner we have at home. And so I think it's good to do some research overall to have a look a bit what's out there. But I think I always would start with the questions myself about, okay, whatever I'm being doing, what am I good at? What are the things I really enjoy? Am I missing in today's job? And how can I do that? And talk with others, right, as well, to test that and use them a bit as a sounding board. So career coach is perfect, but we have a lot of informal career coaches surrounded as well. So use the network that you have.
I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, next question. You've done your research, you know what you want to do. How would you tell candidates to best prepare for the interviews ahead?
You mentioned the word prepare, because I'm a strong believer that, the more you put in preparation, the better the outcome will be. But at the same time, you can't over prepare, because if you're too prepared, then you kind of probably get very narrow-minded in that regard. So I think it's finding the right balance of doing the research. What does the job, if you're kind of looking at a role that you want to apply for, what is that job description? Read it really well. What are the qualifications needed, right? What is the type of environment? What is the organization you're going to go through? Because I've learned through my career, it's sometimes a great job, but if the environment and the culture of the organizations doesn't fit your values, it doesn't make sense. So I think it's about really understanding the role, understanding the organization, and then preparing yourself about, okay, who am I? Why am I unique? What are my strengths? What are my areas of development? What am I looking for? What are the aspirations? And look at yourself, I would say, in a holistic way. We tend to look at the role we do in the job we do right now, but we are so much more than just that particular role we're doing now. We are having experiences outside work. We have had experiences, before that role. So I think you need to think about, how do you put your best foot forward in a way that people see you not just as a resume, but the whole person that you bring to the interview. But that means you need to think about that. You need to reflect about that. And again, you can kind of use it as a sounding board with others to test that as well. Does that resonate? And then I think as you do that, I think what's important is also have the confidence that when you go into the interview, you don't undersell yourself.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. And interestingly, it sort of goes back to what you mentioned before about knowing your experience, knowing the people and utilizing network and, preparing yourself and having conversations. I mean, I love it. I think that's very, very true and very, very right.
If you do that preparation, then you go into an interview being, I would say, more confident about what you prepare, but at the same time, you're also more confident about the questions you can ask an organization, because an interview is two ways, right? It's not just the interviewer interviewing you, but you interviewing the organization as well. So it's about asking the questions that are important to you, because you never ever, I would say, can go into a role if you don't feel like this is going to be the right role for me.
My final question, which it's one that I am, I get a lot from my candidates, and asking for advice on, they've been successful in the interview process. And often, as a recruiter, generally speaking, we play the role of having the salary negotiation, having the sort of compensation conversation. But there are definitely times when clients like to do that, themselves. How would you advise candidates, when they've been successful, they've got the job and everybody's talking about money? How would you advise a candidate to ask for a salary increment and be strong and confident in what they're asking for?
Yeah, and it comes back to the confidence, and I think confidence is something that grows, right, over the years, and sometimes with, again, the support from others, right? But when you go in for a role and you're considered as being the best candidate for that role, as I said, you go into that organization with your whole self. And so I think it's important you have a good understanding around what is the range that role, compensates, right? So I think that is a key thing. And that's, of course, a benchmark you use. But then it's also about, again, what do you bring and what are the qualities you bring to the table? And I think as that regard, you also need to have a feeling. My sense is when you go into a job, you need to feel good about the job, right? You need to feel good that you don't just are going into a new job, but you progress. And so I think that if you're going to go to a new job and it is asking more responsibility than what you're doing now, then there needs to be an increment for that, right? Because otherwise you're just standing still. So I think it's for yourself, really understanding around, if you make a lateral move and it's the same job somewhere else, then you can say, okay, yes, I will bring more too, but the increment might perhaps be smaller, right? Or in some cases, I will take a step back because I don't have that experience, but I have a long-term play in that organization. But if you go into a role that requires more, that needs your whole self, then I think you need to dare to say, listen, I am bringing all of this to the table. I kind of deserve this notion of progressing. You always need to be reasonable, because I think that in all of these cases, you need to understand, and that's why a conversation with someone like yourself is very helpful to test out, okay, what is reasonable and not. Because I have seen candidates that will ask for this, right? Well, it's not reasonable. So I think progression is important. Being rewarded and compensated for your qualities, for your whole self is important. And I think you need to feel good about when you go for that role and accept that job, that you see that. And again, I'm going to use the word progression, because we all deserve to progress in life, especially as we grow as a person. But then, of course, the compensation needs to be aligned to that. So I would say dare and have the courage to have that conversation.
Yeah, amazing. Absolutely amazing. I think this is going to be very, very useful for certainly my candidates, and I plan on using it going forward. So everyone in our network, you're very, very lucky to have all of this gold dust.
Well, it's a pleasure as always, and more than happy to continue the conversations. I'm looking forward to the next topic